Good afternoon. Welcome to the US Labor Actions Dashboard webinar. You may have heard the famous first line of Karl Marx's Communist Manifesto: "A specter is haunting Europe." The same can be said to be true of the United States today. That specter is labor unrest. It is a volcano rumbling under our feet. The civic amenities, like schools and hospitals, which we rely upon for smooth functioning of our daily lives, are increasingly getting unreliable due to threats of labor actions. All sectors of industry: healthcare, education, technology, manufacturing, services, entertainment, media, are experiencing labor unrest. Such actions may someday soon affect the majority of us in the US. And yet, comprehensive, reliable, and easily accessible data on labor activity is hard to come by. Standalone news pieces fail to give a true picture of how truly massive the wave of labor actions has grown. The official government record keeper, the Bureau of Labor Statistics, records only those actions which have 1,000 or more participants. And we found that even those actions are not accurately recorded. According to BLS, there were only 34 actions in 2023 which involved more than 1,000 participants, whereas the actual number is 64. The number of participants in strike actions, according to BLS, is 478,000, whereas in actuality, it's well upward of half a million. And I think BLS got the number even this close because there were three massive strikes in 2023: the Kaiser Permanente nurses strike, the Hollywood actors strike, and the Detroit car makers strike. But for these, BLS probably would have missed the mark even more widely. BLS says that 16.82 million workdays were spent in strike actions in 2023. The real number is 23 million. So BLS underreports the number by around 30%. Let's take a look at a few recent labor actions which affected the daily lives of hundreds of thousands of people. In November 2023, 4,600 Portland public school teachers went on strike for 4 weeks, demanding pay raises, better student discipline, more class planning time, and smaller class sizes, affecting 49,000 students and their families. More than 70,000 Kaiser Permanente nurses all over the country struck for 4 weeks in October 2023. In fact, nurses and teachers are two of the most unrestful job types in the US today. More than a million working days have been lost in nurses' strikes in 2023 alone. Around 30 pharmacies in multiple Kansas City CVS locations walked out of their jobs on September 21st, and then again on September 29th. Also, 25 pharmacists in Columbia, Missouri walked out on September 25th. Taking inspiration from this action, 4,500 pharmacists all over the country working for Rite Aid, Walgreens, and CVS held strike actions for 3 days in November. And now, the United Food and Commercial Workers Union is trying to organize pharmacists in the US. So, an even bigger action may be forthcoming. It's hard to remember life before 2 day shipping, isn't it? Well, tens of thousands of people certainly remembered when 1,100 DHL package handlers went on strike for 20 days in Cincinnati. Moreover, in solidarity with them, hundreds more went on strike in at least 7 other cities. Let me give you a startling fact. Between March and October 2023, each month saw increasing number of workdays wasted in strike action, and large-scale actions in 2024 are already shaping up. For example, the strike of 29,000 faculty members by the California State University system, which is scheduled for the 22nd of January. The frequency and intensity of strike actions has been on an upswing, and given the current social and political facts, labor policies are not going to change in a hurry, which means that labor activity is only going to gather strength. We felt that it is vitally important for reliable statistics to be available for all stakeholders: businesses, policymakers, labor organizers, and general public, so that honest and productive conversations could take place around this topic. There is another source of data of which we must make an honorable mention. It is the labor actions dashboard maintained by Cornell University School of Industrial and Labor Relations. They maintain a comprehensive database of labor strikes and protests and display results on an interactive map. However, their dashboard has some drawbacks. They don't show interactive statistics. The analysis of workdays spent in strike actions is missing on this dashboard. They also don't account for strike durations. They don't provide information about unionization activities. And they don't provide information about dispute resolutions. They do provide the exact locations of actions that took place, but we think that that's of minor importance. They do have data from 2021 onwards, whereas our dashboard has data from 2022 onwards. I figured that with our technology, we will be able to overcome these drawbacks and create a comprehensive, definitive labor actions dashboard in the public interest. Plus, of course, generate some positive publicity for Megaputer and our technology. The template in my mind was that of the COVID-19 dashboards, which were a great source of public knowledge during the pandemic. Now, let's take a look at the dashboard before diving into the technology behind it. The URL to the dashboard is labor.polyanalyst.com. This dashboard is a one-stop location for getting information about US labor actions from all angles. First off, you may wonder what have been the largest labor actions in past couple of years. You can find that out by setting the number of participants filter to a high value, say 10,000. We see that the map shows a few bubbles, each bubble centered around a city or town. The size of the bubble corresponds to the number of participants in labor actions at that location, and the color represents the number of actions. So darker the bubble, higher the number of actions. We can click on each location bubble to see details of actions in the events bulletin. The title shows the number, types, and workers of each type of action. Then we have other details such as timeline, employer, industry, demands, labor organization, status of the action, and notes. The biggest bubble is on Las Vegas. Let's check out what's going on there. It turns out that a strike of 53,000 hospitality workers was narrowly averted. I can check out the news sources which reported this event by clicking on the bulletin, which populates the sources. I can click on the link to read the news article. But if I wish to view cases where a strike actually took place, I can simply select the action type as strike. This narrows down the search to strikes which actually happened or which are planned in the near future. So we see that in San Francisco, a strike by 29,000 faculty members of the California State University system is, excuse me, is planned for January 22nd. I can reset all filter values by using this simple button. Now let's study one of the biggest stories in labor actions in 2023, the healthcare sector. I will select the industry as healthcare and medicine and the action type as strike. Pickets, vote to authorize strike, vote to strike, issue strike notice, and informational pickets. Keep in mind that a strike is the culmination of a long process of negotiations between the employers and the labor organizations. So keeping track of these events is important for understanding the trends. I will also reset the number of participants to one so that the dashboard shows all the activities that have of small and large size that have taken place. We see that there have been 235 events in the healthcare sector in the past 2 years, and the number of participants have been 375,000. The strike duration gaps shows the duration of strikes. So there have been 35 single day strikes, 63 strikes which lasted between 2 days and a month, and 3 strikes which were between a month and 6 months long. I can select this bubble here to see which 3 strikes were the longest running strikes. Let me redo the selections. So we see the uh, 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 the 3 strikes which lasted for more than a month and between a month and 6 months is uh, is a strike by 25 dental workers for Bellflower Dental Group, a strike by 1,700 nurses which lasted from August 4th to December 1st, and a strike by 2,000 Kaiser Permanente mental health workers which lasted from August 15th to October 18th. I can uncheck any selection by clicking this little button on that graph. Now, the labor actions over time graph at the bottom shows us the spikes where the largest action started. So in December, we see that there is a spike, and this spike represents strikes by nurses in 8 major New York City hospitals. Another big spike we see is in September 2023. And that spike represents uh, strikes by Fresenius kidney care workers and also, and also a few Kaiser facilities. And the biggest one, the Kaiser Permanente strike. In the second graph in the same tab, I see the workdays in strike action. And we see the monthly distribution of workdays spent in strike actions for each of the months. And October 2023 saw the most number of workdays wasted in strike actions, which was almost 800,000, a little more than 800,000 workdays wasted in strike actions. And the cumulative workdays spent in strike actions for healthcare sector over 2 years was more than 1.3 million. I can also see the bigger trends by going on to the trends tab and selecting the industry as healthcare and medicine. And here I see all the companies which saw bigger or smaller strikes over the past 2 years, and also the types of workers who were involved in these strikes. So the biggest group that we see who were involved in the strikes was nurses, followed by healthcare workers, physical therapists, service workers, caregivers, occupational therapists, pharmacists. So most of the types most of the job types in the healthcare sector were involved in strikes in the last 2 years. I can also see the biggest strikes by number of participants by resetting this number to say 1,000. And we see that the biggest strike, of course, was the Kaiser Permanente strike. But just between October and December, there were about 30 to 35 um, different actions in the healthcare sector. And I can browse through all of them with my cursor with the help of this little pop-up window that we see. One important factor in the organization of strikes is the labor organizations. And we can see the biggest organizations which were responsible for these actions by number of actions and number of participants. By number of actions, the largest organization was the CNA-NNU, followed by Caregivers and Healthcare Employees Union, followed by the New York State Nurses Association, and so on. And by number of participants, the coalition of Kaiser Permanente unions, followed by SEIU UHW, followed by MNA and SEIU. The About page tells us about the methodology and the philosophy behind this dashboard. And on the right hand side, we provide links to other Megaputer dashboards, such as the Inside D Pharma Insights Discovery Dashboard, the Twitter topics analysis on the topic of COVID vaccine, and an analysis of Amazon reviews of different types of printers. You're welcome to visit these dashboards when you get the chance. Now let's talk a little bit about the technology behind this dashboard. The dashboard is powered by Megaputer's flagship product, Polyanalyst. Polyanalyst is a comprehensive data platform with which you can perform ETL or ELT operations, statistical analysis, machine learning, AI interfacing, and business intelligence or dashboarding in an intuitive no-code environment. Polyanalyst provides unique capabilities tackling this project's challenges. The first is the need to handle large quantities of text data. We extract the information from news articles. With Polyanalyst, we have processed hundreds of thousands of news articles in a fraction of the time that would be needed if we did this manually. In fact, BLS says that they don't have the resources to monitor strikes involving fewer than 1,000 participants, whereas our dashboard is a one-man operation. We believe that the usefulness of this dashboard is directly related to the completeness and accuracy of the data we gather. So we don't want to fail to log any action, however small. But there are quite a few small scale or under the radar actions which barely get a mention in the media. Sometimes you find them mentioned in paragraph 7 of a news piece about a completely separate event. If we were processing the data manually, we would be sure to fail to log such actions. But Polyanalysts' advanced NLP tools discover and bring to light such instances. Some large-scale actions, such as the Hollywood actors strike, has hundreds of pieces written about them. With our technology, we are able to resolve all these mentions to a single action and avoid tedious processing of duplicates. The dashboard requires the use of NLP algorithms, interfacing with AI models, analytical modules, and dashboarding. In Polyanalyst, we have all these capabilities integrated into a single platform. So constructing the workflow from data ingestion to dashboarding is very convenient. I mentioned that we extract the data from news articles. We use Polyanalyst's built-in web crawler for gathering news articles which contain potential terms of interest, such as strike, pickets, demonstrations, etc. As you can imagine, it's a very wide net, but it's important to gather as many relevant news articles as possible so as not to fail to log any labor action. The daily volume of articles is several hundred a day. When the Hollywood and car manufacturers strikes were going on simultaneously, there could be as many as 1500 articles in a day. In the next step, Polyanalysts' unique text analysis engine extracts and categorizes information regarding various labor actions mentioned in the news articles. Each labor action we log has a few attributes: employer, location, that is city and state, type of employees involved in the action, number of employees, types of action, labor organizations, timeline, status of the action, and demands. Except for the demands, the text engine extracts as many attributes as it can from each news article and consolidates them across multiple articles. For example, snippets from three separate articles contain different pieces of information regarding the planned California State University faculty strike. The engine cross-references those mentions, resolves them to a single event, and fills out the bottom table with available values. Not all field values are available or successfully extracted in every instance, but still the engine is very successful in structuring the data. We discovered that our rule-based text engine was limited when it came to extracting workers' demands and grievances, especially when compared to the large language models which started emerging around the same time we undertook the project. The solution was a hybrid approach. We created custom queries based on the attributes which we extracted in the previous step. This way, the AI prompts became directed and specific, limiting the hallucinations, which are a serious problem with the large language models. We have been doing a lot of work on developing this hybrid approach in order to compensate for the various shortcomings of large language models. If you wish to learn more about it, visit Megaputer's YouTube page. Also, I have posted a video link in the chat. After the extractions are done, we want to whittle them down to the essentials. We are not interested in actions which have already been logged. We are only interested in the new developments. The solution compares the daily extracted data with already logged actions and keeps only those records which represent updates and new developments. For maintaining the accuracy and reliability of the dashboard data, there is really no substitute for manually verifying the final data. Also, some fields are simply too hard to extract for the text engine. With all the whittling down we do in the previous step, we need to verify around 10 to 20 data points each day. The data points which represent new actions or developments in ongoing actions are finally logged. Finally, the dashboard is updated with the validated data. This concludes our webinar on Megaputer's US labor actions dashboard. We welcome you to explore the publicly accessible dashboards in our reports gallery. In particular, I would like to draw your attention to our Pharma Intelligence solution, Inside D, which you can access at pharma.polyanalyst.com. I would be happy to take your questions at this point. Thank you. Okay, I see a question here. You mentioned an organization that underreported labor actions. Can you tell us more about the reporting methods? This organization is the government's is a government bureau. It's called the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and they do describe their methodology in their on their page. They mention that they collect the data from the involved parties, such as the employer, the labor organization, and some other institutes, and then they cross verify this data with other government bodies. So that is their methodology. The Cornell University's School of Industrial and Labor Relations, um, they don't quite mention how they gather their data, but from the description, it sounds like it's basically a manual operation. But I cannot be 100% certain about that. So it looks like we don't have any further questions. So thank you so much for your participation. And if you have any other questions, please feel free to contact us. Thank you.